the community in which one of these cameras were.
Pascal, don't forget, the bigger picture of cocoa is that the way people are mining is undermining availability of cocoa farms.
Yeah.
So if you look at the trend for our cocoa output, it's coming down. Now, if cocoa prices start falling, we're in big trouble. As I speak to you, there's reduced coffee prices globally. And this is affecting Ugandan farmers in a very serious way. Now, Uganda depends a lot on coffee. East African countries depend a lot on coffee. Now, there's been a slump in international coffee price and shipping cost in the last quarter. And this is affecting farmers. So for me, we need to keep an eye on the effect of galamsey on cocoa output. And the attempt by countries that usually buy our cocoa to look for substitutes. There was a story I read a few days ago about some European country trying to plant cocoa. We've always seen the Chinese always trying to do this. And I feel we are undermining our own long-term future with the way we are destroying farmlands in Ghana, because that's, I believe, a bigger problem than some of the little things they're reporting here.
Yeah, but you know that there has been a concerted attempt recently to really muzzle us out. After we went into that agreement with La Côte d'Ivoire to help, set a floor price for cocoa, and these guys are not taking it like
freedom doesn't come cheap. If you want to be free, you have to be committed to it, because once you are exporting the raw material and they are adding value and you are paying premium for it, they are happy. Once you start adding value, once you start trying to control price, you are no longer their friend.
And this whole thing on international networks like that would then turn people against Ghana's cocoa.
That is why we need to develop the African market, take advantage of add value to our cocoa, support cocoa companies that are adding value.
I agree with you.
And then not always depend on Western countries for support.
Exactly. Let me give you two quick stories from the Daily Graphic, Bernard. So, we all know the 41,000 tons gold for oil fuel has landed. But Okujeto Ablakwa
is on the cathedral issue.
Yesterday he was at Shraj. He's asking, he's petitioning Shraj to investigate Reverend Kusi Boateng Edujemfi. The Member of Parliament for North Tongue, Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa, has petitioned the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice to investigate the Secretary of the National Cathedral Board of Trustees, Reverend Victor Kusi Boateng, over conflict of interest, including possession of multiple identities and other alleged criminal dealings. The petition, which was received by the two deputy commissioners of Shraj yesterday, also alleged that there was a transfer of 2.6 million Ghana cedis cash from the National Cathedral Secretariat to JNS Talent Center Limited, owned by Reverend Kusi Boateng, under his secondary identity, Kwabena Edujemfi. Mr. Blackwell, who confirmed the submission of the petition to the Daily Graphic yesterday, said the petition sought to invoke the mandate of Shraj and Article 218 of the 1992 Constitution to investigate, quote, the odious conflict of interest in regard to Reverend Victor Kusi Boateng's position on the National Cathedral Board, as he literally paid his own company a staggering 2.6 million Ghana cedis for no work done. And then just to wrap up on my side, the New Year School is opening today.
Before you do that, let me just give you a related story on the National Cathedral project. If you go to the New Crusading Guide, the National Cathedral Secretariat says it is setting the record straight on the 2.6 billion loan received from JNS. The story says that the National Cathedral Secretariat has refuted allegations by the Member of Parliament for the Northern constituency, Honourable Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa, who claimed that some 2.6 million Ghana cedis was paid to a company owned by a board member of the cathedral, Reverend Victor Kusi Boateng. Now, JNS Talent Center Limited, which allegedly runs a crèche in Dowenya, was paid some 2.6 million Ghana cedis to help build the cathedral, the lawmaker revealed in a tweet last Wednesday. The lawmaker on Monday, January 16, further alleged that that particular institution is owned by one Kwabena Edujemfi. Now, it goes on to provide details, but the National Cathedral Secretariat is saying in a statement that the 2.6 million Ghana cedis was a refund to JNS Talent and not an amount illegally paid to them.
We know that Joseph Whittle-led Shraj will do a good job with this. So we will see.
My only concern is whether
Shraj was the right platform.
I thought the conflict of interest, the Constitution hides it off and says they should deal with it. But on the matter of
the identity issues,
double identity,
whether Shraj
it may have some criminal connotations. It would seem that
maybe the petitioner or appellant or whatever his name, maybe he wants to explore Shraj preliminarily first. And then we see how that falls.
No, but that should also not be the case. Well, maybe we'll discuss this later, so let me not use this.
Yeah, New Year School has started.
Yeah, it's opening today.
This thing still continues.
Yeah, no, it's really good. The New Year School brings a lot of...
I think it's important to think about the year.
In my formative years as a young journalist,
you took cover New Year. That was your beat.
So this year, the Vice President is speaking. The Finance Minister is speaking. We'll be interested to hear him.
I think Mary Chinwihese is also there.
Yes, Sheila Koboche is speaking. Esla Kufu is speaking. Dr. Yose Duchum is speaking, and then Daniel Macaulay.
Speaking of Esla Owusu, NCA approves transfer of majority shares in Vodafone Ghana to Telecel.
They are selling it again.
Yeah, they've been looking for a buyer for a while. The National Communication Authority has granted what is called conditional approval for the transfer of 70% majority shares in Ghana Telecoms Limited, Vodafone, held by Vodafone International BV Holdings to Telecel Group. This is subject to concessions by the seller and representations made by the buyer to the NCA. Now, the NCA in a statement confirmed that the revised proposal from the buyer now meets the regulatory threshold and hence granted conditional approval. You know, the way Vodafone has moved from Ghana Telecom PNT to Norway to the UK, we hope the Telecel move revamps it, because we are part owners of Vodafone. And it's in our interest. All the telcos, look at MTN is now the overwhelming dominant force.
Yeah.
Vodafone, Airtel, Tigo, and the others need to be strengthened to provide a semblance of good competition. Let me take you to China. We can find out. So a top Chinese delegate or official is on a 5-nation tour of Africa, and I thought I would just mention that for you. China's new top diplomat,
the Foreign Minister.
King Gang, is that pronounced?
No.
King Gang.
Chingang?
It's Ching.
Chingang. Yeah, like Chingong. Embarks on a 5-nation African tour. So Chinese Foreign Minister King Gang began his inaugural week-long tour of 5 African countries.
What's the specific name?
GANG. I wanted Sky to guess the 5 countries that he was.
I think Zambia should be in there. I think there should be Ethiopia in there.
No, Zambia is not there. Ethiopia is there. You are right. Starting with Ethiopia.
There should be Kenya somewhere there.
Kenya is not there.
Because they are very reliant on Chinese loans.
So let me just give you this round.
Okay.
He's doing Ethiopia. He'll do Gabon.
He'll
do Angola. He'll do Benin and Egypt.
Yes.
Benin, I'm not too sure why they're interested there.
There's a lot happening.
There's a lot happening.
You don't know.
Charlie.
You sit down there.
The countries are not picked randomly.
Yeah, we'll see. So that's the story from that.
I'm a bit surprised he did not come to Ghana, though.
You're
How much is
surprised.
happening here?
Well,
Considering we are just beginning engagement on debt, and we owe them quite a lot of money.
But if you look at our portfolio of debt, China is not very significant. If you take
Really?
if you take all our debts, it's not like Zambia. Zambia's debt exchange was made difficult because a lot of it was Chinese debt, and Chinese.
1.2.
You see, in this world, who you owe determines the approach you can use.
Yeah, that's right.
So if your debt is to a lot of Western people, the Paris Club and all these guys can come together and give you concessions. But the Chinese play with a different rule book.
That's right.
But they are sitting with the Paris Club this time.
Yeah, but I'm saying
For
that
the new negotiations.
Yeah, but I'm saying that what makes our debt less complicated than Zambia is that the overall percentage of exposure to China is low. Don't forget, a lot of the Chinese loans all don't come through from Nielsen's time. So the promise is made. In fact,
the money don't come.
Don't forget, we even have a whole bauxite thing with China,
right.
but not all the money has been released. Sino Hydro. So a huge chunk of our debt is to the bond market people and to Western people.
And now people are holding out.
Yeah.
We'll leave that for now. That was a newspaper review with Richard Sky and Godfred Akotoboafo. Coming up next is the City Business News. Stay with us.
I think Galamsey is a mental problem. It's a mental problem. It's a mindset problem that you think you can steal today and still eat your cake tomorrow. I think that if you could go to the next slide, that we have to appreciate to fix and restore is always more expensive than to spoil. Spoiling takes an instant. Those of you who are in married or relationships, you slap your spouse. I'm not recommending this. It takes a second to do that action, but I'm telling you, pay for it for the rest of your life.
Yes.
So it is better not to spoil it in the first place. My third point is that a full time problem like Galamsey cannot be solved by part-time responses.
I'm not sure if that's the same word. Yeah, but this news is brought to you by MTN. This new has just begun, and what better way to begin the year than by starting fresh with a brand new SIM from your favorite network. From the month of January, all SIM card prices will now be 10 cedis. So join the MTN family and begin the year with great coverage and super fast internet connection everywhere you go. So Michael is here with all the details.
Hello and welcome to the breakfast edition of Citi Business News, proudly brought to you by MTN, Goal Enterprise Life Your Advantage, Access Bank, Modern Banking, and powered by your most comprehensive business news website, citybusinessnews.com. Coming up, Ghana Association of Banks direct members to halt engagement with government on debt exchange program. Meanwhile, stakeholders urge government to review the program and ensure consensus for a successful implementation. Also, Association of Ghana Industries AGI calls for an extension in the implementation of the announced increment in tariffs. Michael Obodu, and to details of our stories now. The success of the government's domestic debt exchange program, DDEP, is likely to hit a massive setback as information gathered by Citi Business News indicates that the Ghana Association of Banks has instructed its members to stay any further engagement on the DDEP until their demands have been met. The association says this is due to the foregoing and numerous uncertainties surrounding the program. It is also calling on any managing director or CEO of any financial institution who wishes to go ahead with the program to contact the CEO of the Ghana Association of Banks directly for approval. This decision of the banks is said to have played a key role in government's decision to extend the deadline for the registration of the domestic debt exchange program for the third time to 31st January 2023. Meanwhile, an economist, Professor Peter Cortes, says it is crucial for the government to reach a consensus with the bondholders to enable the debt exchange program to advance. Government is racing against time to have all individual bondholders sign on to the terms of the debt exchange program, but the latter want to be exempted from the program. Government failed to reach an agreement on the deadline, the last deadline, that was January 16, 2023, which had moved to January 31st. Speaking to Citi Business News, Professor Cortes called on government to come to an agreement with the bondholders, as failure to do so could spell doom for the economy.
Will be very disastrous. That will mean that we have to pull out of the IMF program, and the market will react very, very highly. Our exchange rate will start to depreciate rapidly. And you know the consequence of it has a knock-on effect on inflation. It has a knock-on effect on imports. It has a knock-on effect on livelihood. We are in this critical situation. Cool health should prevail. We ought to dialogue so that we come to consensus and make sure that we find a solution to the problem. I don't think government should take an entrenched position. I don't expect the bondholders to also take an entrenched. I expect that the zero coupon rate is not acceptable. I don't think somebody expects to live on the interest payment. That will mean asking the person to starve. So some interest rates, I think, will be good. Maybe some 10%, 15%.
You heard the economist, Professor Peter Cortes. Now, in a related development, economist Dr. Patrick Esuming is urging government to use the period of the extension of the deadline for the domestic debt exchange program to relook some modifications to the terms of the domestic exchange program. As part of the new terms under the government's DDEP, domestic bondholders have been asked to exchange their instruments for 12 new bonds, one maturing each year starting from January 2027 and ending on January 2038. Already, some stakeholders have noted that given that the amended and restated exchange memorandum terms of the DDEP is extended to 15 years, there is no guarantee that many pensioners would live long enough to benefit from their investments. Dr. Esuming has been speaking to Citi Business News.
As for hope, there is hope, and if the government is aware that there's no other way than to get this debt exchange approved. So I don't think it's something that the government is contemplating. It's just that the way it started off was completely wrong. The way it started off and not engaging enough. So I think now, there are two things. There's a substantive matter of what are the terms of the deal. And then there's a process. I think the terms look very hard for people who have innocently purchased government bonds. The terms look extremely hard. So the government will have to look at the terms and what, where it can give and where it can take. Then the process is also important. The process is where the engagement, sitting around the table and discussing with relevant parties and their representatives to lay bare the picture of the economic realities and convince people that we have to do a proper burden sharing. That proper burden sharing, of course, will bring in a discussion about the budget that has already been passed. Even if people are sitting on the table, I'm not sure that people will feel that the burden is being shared equally or is being shared equitably. So, all that discussion has to come back in play. So I hope that the government will use the period to do that kind of engagement.
You heard the economist Dr. Patrick Esuming. Now, away from that, the Association of Ghana Industries, AGI, is calling on the government to extend the implementation of the new increment in tariffs. The Public Utilities and Regulatory Commission, PURC, yesterday announced tariffs would go up effective February 1st, 2023, despite admitting the present economic challenges. While the end-user tariff for electricity has been increased by 29.96%, that of water has also seen an upward adjustment by 8.3% following the conclusion of the PURC's regulatory processes for quarterly adjustments. In an interview with Citi Business News, Greater Accra Chairman of AGI, Chonam Akpelu, stated that the increment would be a disincentive for local manufacturers, hence must be postponed until the economy sees some improvement.
To begin the year with about 29% increase in the electricity tariff can only be said not to be good for industry. Industry is suffering, really. Industry is at the stage where we're dealing with many high costs of different things. The cost of raw materials has gone up significantly, interest rates have gone up. And so our plea with government is to really consider to delay some of these increments.
Greater Accra Chairman of the Association of Ghana Industries, AGI, Chonam Akpelu. Now, moving on, Ranking Member on Parliament's Energy and Mines Committee, John Abdullah, Junapor, says government's goal for fuel policy does not guarantee that it can purchase petroleum products at cheaper prices. The Vice President, Dr. Mahamadou Bawumia, had stated that the move is meant to tackle dwindling foreign currency reserves coupled with the demand for dollars by oil importers, which is weakening the local cedi and increasing living cost. Speaking to Citi Business News, MP4 Yape Kusegu said the message disseminated by government that it will buy cheaper oil with this policy is not accurate.
You can't just say take an ounce of gold and give me a barrel of oil as it used to be in the real butter that you are talking about. You must first of all value that gold in dollar terms of currency or money. But let's even assume it is because you don't want your currency to reduce, to depreciate. That is not the same as buying cheaper oil. Cheaper oil means that oil is 100 cedi. I'm getting it for 80 cedi or 90 cedi. That is what you say is cheaper oil. If you are doing this to manage your currency, if you're saying that Ghana, we are so broke now that our reserves are depleted, and so we do not have enough dollars to buy crude, so we are using gold as a backup so that we can buy crude, it's a different matter. Be honest and sincere. But don't tell us that you are going to get cheaper crude or cheaper finished product.
Ranking Member on Parliament's Energy and Mines Committee and MP for Yape Kusegu, John Abdullah Junapor. Meanwhile, information gathered by Citi Business News from the Institute of Energy Security, IES, indicates that the vessel MTSCF Yenisei, carrying the first consignment of fuel for gold, is expected to begin discharging the product later today over a 3-day period. The vessel arrived over the weekend carrying over 40,000 metric tons of fuel and is presently at anchorage waiting to be given the go-ahead to berth at a conventional buoy mooring point offshore to discharge into tanks at the Accra Plains Depot off Bost. Meanwhile, the Bank of Ghana says it is well positioned to meet the demand of 160,000 ounces of gold per month under the gold for oil deal. Though many have kicked against the move and questioned its sustainability, the Director of Financial Market at the Bank of Ghana, Stephen Opata, says the central bank has ample quantities of gold reserves to sustain the gold for oil policy. He spoke when he appeared before the Public Accounts Committee. Now, on the interbank foreign exchange market, where banks trade amongst themselves, the dollar remained unchanged and is selling at 10 cedis 34 pesos. The British pound lost 1 peso and is selling at 12 cedis 61 pesos. The euro remained unchanged and is selling at 11 cedis 2 pesos. However, at some forex bureaus in the capital, the dollar is selling for 12 cedis 90 pesos, while the British pound is selling at 15 cedis and the euro is selling at 13 cedis 15 pesos. Let's now join Mark Jordan Sikanate of Databank for the latest update on the bonds market.
Last week, the Ghanaian Treasury exceeded its target by approximately 52% as it accepted 1.71 billion Ghana cedis out of bid worth 1.72 billion Ghana cedis. Yields on the 91-day and the 182-day tenure declined to 35.46% and 35.83% respectively, whilst the 364-day yield climbed to 35.92%. Aggregate market turnover slowed by 57.1% to 503.05 million Ghana cedis. Consequently, the Databank bond index retreated to 81.12 points as the average yield to maturity increased to 36.86%.
That was Mark Jordan Sikanate of Databank. And that does it for the breakfast edition of Citi Business News, proudly brought to you by MTN, Goral Enterprise Life Your Advantage, Access Bank, Modern Banking, and powered by your most comprehensive business news website, citybusinessnews.com. My name is Michael Lubudu. Have a good business day. Thank you for listening. As always, please stay safe.
I nearly gave up on driving out of frustration. What hadn't I done? Purging.
We are resorting to more expensive chemicals to be able to get to be able to reduce the process losses. If you go to Odaso, if we were not using the polyelectrolyte, we might not have been able to even get up to 30% of the water to send to Obuasi. But with the use of the polyelectrolyte, we are doing about 50%. And so at every time you have to increase costs. If you are using the aluminum sulfate, you will have to use, the more aluminum sulfate you put in your water, the more other chemicals that you put in to correct your pH level. So at all times, the costs continue to go very, very high. And I think that if PURC can allow us to pass on the cost to the citizens, yes, politically it might have some implications. But when people begin to see the cost, I'm sure we'll all go onto the rivers and directly get the people who are doing that damage away. If we don't take that seriously, I'm sure even our rivers will die. We are resorting to more expensive chemicals to be able to get to be able to reduce the process losses. If you go to Odaso, if we were not using the polyelectrolyte, we might not have been able to even get up to 30% of the water to send to Obuasi. But with the use of the polyelectrolyte, we are doing about 50%. And so at every time you have to increase costs. If you are using the aluminum sulfate, you will have to use, the more aluminum sulfate you put in your water.
As much as you can, try to know yourself. Okay. And I want to entreat for those of you out there who want to know yourself. We have the ability, we have the technology, we have the lab analysis that will help you to know yourself. So you will not be just placing yourself in assumption and interpretation of other people. So when they ask you who you are, you'll be able to tell who exactly you are, because that influences your decision, your choices, and even help you to manage your life. You don't want to leave this world without really coming to know who you are. So you're just trying to be like other people till you die without really coming to know yourself. So when you get in touch, we can give you what you have to do in order to get your lab analysis so that you can be so proud of yourself and even your children. So you don't struggle to know what your children will do in the future and all that. That is just a plus that you can give to yourself as your New Year package. And then you need to actually question your opinions of life. Know yourself.
Most of us, we don't even have vocabulary for emotions. And so we start with these 4 basic ones. I'll ask you, how are you feeling? And then you answer, I'm feeling glad, or sad, or mad, or bad. Just those 4. So you pick one.
Glad, sad, mad, or bad?
Yes.
Only one positive.
Right. So when you answer, you say, oh, I'm feeling glad. Then all I say is, tell me more.
Okay. Then you elaborate.
So the person goes on. And the person may stop. Then you all say, you repeat, tell me more. Until the 2 minutes or the 5 minutes or the 10 minutes is up. You'll be amazed how many emotions come up and things that person...
Can I use it with my kids?
Oh, yes. Yes, we do it.
Are you feeling glad, sad, mad, or bad?
And you'll be amazed. Bernard, I say to, I'm a bit ashamed to say, but I learned these things as an adult. And my children are learning them.
They'll do better.
They will do better. Yeah. They should do better.
They have to.
So you just go, and you don't say anything when somebody says something that...
Play, and in the NBA, LeBron James dropping 48 points to lead the Lakers to victory against the Houston Rockets. And let's start off with some boxing. And former WBO super bantamweight champion Isaac Dogbe says he is under no pressure to reclaim a world title. The 28-year-old is scheduled to fight Cuban boxer Robese Ramirez on the 1st of April for the WBO featherweight belt, which could be vacated by Mexican fighter Emmanuel Navarrete. Now, in an interview with Citi Sports, Dogbe insists he has no fear to become a 2-time world champion.
Pressure? Nah, I mean, there can't be no pressure. I mean, wherever the pressure is, we have to control the pressure. We have to control the fear. We have to control the emotions and everything. That's what makes us us, and that's what makes it very important, and that's what makes it exciting. Knowing that you're going out there, everyone is counting on you to deliver, and it's been great. Climbing up the ladder all these years, and I feel excited about this one, and I know that by God's special grace, we're gonna go out there and deliver.
We heard former WBO super bantamweight champion Isaac Dogbe speaking there. Let's get to the national team and the Black Galaxies. They are in the news these days because the CHAN is happening. Now, Black Galaxies head coach is Anna Walker. He says his players are yearning to make up for the 2-1 loss to Madagascar in the ongoing tournament. Now, Ghana must avoid defeat against Sudan in the final Group C match on Thursday to stand any chance of making it to the knockout stages.
By losing the game, they are all down and they are worried, and they did not understand why they should lose a match against no other team than Madagascar. We just finished a meeting together with them. The technical and the players had a meeting, and in fact I have to ask them some questions which they answered. And I could see how serious they are, how ready they are for the Thursday's game. Because they know if they don't win or they are not able to win on Thursday, then it will be a blow for them and they will disappoint the whole Ghanaians. So they are ready. The attitude is going to be different on Thursday.
Black Galaxy's head coach Arno Walker speaking there. Let's get to some results from the matches that were played yesterday. Mali played out a 3-3 draw with Angola, and then Cameroon beat Congo by 1-0. Now later today, there's Mozambique versus Libya. There's also Algeria versus Ethiopia. So that's what's going on with the CHAN tournament. Let's get to the Bet Power Ghana Premier League match week 12 action. Bibiani Gold Stars, they missed 2 penalties to draw 1-1 against Asante Kotoko at the Dance Park in Bibiani. Now La Ibrahim missed the penalty for Gold Stars, but Dramani Yaya scored from the rebound to cancel out Stevie Mukwala's goal for the Porcupine Warriors. Kotoko's goalkeeper Frederick Asari saved the second penalty in the match from Prince Owusu Kwabena. Now Gold Stars head coach Michael Osei ruled his team's poor finishing on the day.
Je suis pas content le match nul. We came here to win the match. We have got a lot of numerous of chances to score, but we couldn't score.
That's football. That's football because we had a chance today to win this game, but I don't know because I said a message to the player, but it's a public. I cannot say too much about the player. It's a very unfortunate game that we couldn't win the game. So it was a balanced game, but we get the opportunity. But in the game, if you get the opportunity and then you don't score, that's how it goes. So I will take the 1 point and then in good faith.
So you heard Gold Stars head coach Michael Osei speaking there. Now head coach for Asante Kotoko Seydou Zebo had this to say after the match.
Je suis pas content le match nul. We came here to win the match. We have got a lot of numerous of chances to score, but we couldn't score. So I'm not happy with the results. Football as it is a game of chances, and the match we played today is different from the match we are going to play next. So there is nothing we can say much about this very much. All of our supporters, they saw what went on wrong and what went good.
La vérité des matchs qu'on a joué ce soir, c'est différent du match de demain.
Asante Kotoko head coach Seydou Zebo speaking through an interpreter there. Elsewhere, Accra Lions beat Brecum Chelsea by 2-1. And when you get to the league table, Aduana Stars have 24 points. Accra Lions have 22 points. Asante Kotoko have 21 points. They have drawn 4 consecutive matches. Accra Hearts of Oak also have 21 points. Let's get to some foreign stuff and let's talk about transfers because Chelsea manager Graham Potter is delighted to have landed the club's new signing Mikhailo Mudryk. Now, the Ukrainian winger had looked to sign for Premier League rivals Arsenal, but he decided to join the Blues from Shakhtar Donetsk on an 8.5-year deal. Now, here's Potter after Chelsea secured a £62 million signing of Mudryk.
Well, I think you're never surprised in the transfer window because things happen sometimes like you don't expect them to happen. But in terms of what he brings, he's a young player with a big future, exciting, 1v1, direct, attacks the back line, can go in wide areas, but also affects the goal. So, really exciting player. I think our supporters will really like him.
So you had Chelsea manager Graham Potter speaking there. Let's get to some FA Cup replay action that will happen later today. There's West Brom versus Chesterfield. There's also Wolverhampton Wanderers taking on Liverpool Football Club. Let's get to the camp of Liverpool and let's hear from head coach Jurgen Klopp.
No, we go as strong as we can, but it always depends on the situation you are in, and that means when it was the last game and stuff like this. Not all players who played on the last game are available now, so for different reasons. And yes, we will make changes. That's clear, but it's good as well. So, but what I mean with as strong as we can, because we want to win the game, so we need obviously fresh legs. That's not the easiest thing for me is to sit here and tell the boys, yeah, so you pretty much with the game at Brighton, you put us in a situation, so let's have a look how you can get us out of that again. So, but that's what means I'm out of responsibility. I cannot. I just can't. So, I mean, we have to make decisions about the lineup. We will. We will make changes. That's clear 3 days after the last game. I think that makes absolute sense. And then we will go.
So you heard Liverpool head coach Jurgen Klopp speaking there. Let's round it off with some basketball from the NBA. The Houston Rockets, they took on the Los Angeles Lakers last night, and it was LeBron James dropping 48 points, 8 rebounds, and 9 assists to lead the Lakers to a 140-132 victory. On the side of the losing Rockets, it was young Turk Alperen Şengün dropping 33 points for his team in the process. That's all for this morning's edition of Kickoff. My name is Benjamin Nketia. Kickoff was brought to us by Lesheho. There's more sports at citysportsonline.com.
Trust the process. The biggest things.
Inclusion of the individual bondholders to the debt exchange program followed the decision by government to exclude pension funds after stiff opposition from labor unions. But who are these individual bondholders? And what impact do they envisage if the debt exchange pulls through?
Some are unemployed persons. They were formerly in employment. You see some of the banks that collapsed. Some of the bankers who lost their jobs. Some are these people. So when they lost their jobs, the little savings they had, try to put in investments so that they plan periodically. So maybe you have small in bonds, so you know that in March you get X amount. Then you have a little in treasury bills. So in April you get this interest. That. So that's how people have done it. And also there are the pensioners who are very popular in this category, right? So unemployed people, students, pensioners, etc.
According to lawyer for the bondholders opposing the inclusion, all individual bondholders are about 14,000 in number. However, those who have so far expressed their opposition are less than 400. But would the number of people who come forward for this cause matter?
We've crossed the threshold because at least 250, and that's a huge number. 250 Ghanaians getting up. That's a huge number. In every human endeavor, even if no matter how easy it is, it's normal to find that some people will not show up. Not because they don't want to, but either they've not heard it, they are lethargic, all manner. So I don't expect that all 14,000 will be fighting. No. But for me, once we've gone past 250, and that's me alone, there are other lawyers who have hundreds.
The debt exchange program became necessary after a debt sustainability analysis with the IMF that showed that government's debt is at unsustainable levels. The move is a prerequisite to get a $3 billion deal from the IMF. But the group who say the investment of all individual bondholders amount to 8 billion Ghana cedis believe their funds are not significant enough to disrupt the debt exchange program if excluded.
Anybody who tells you that we need this 8 billion to be able to get support from the IMF is lying to you. That would be a bare-faced lie. Let me repeat. Now, having understood the things on the ground, anybody who makes an argument that you need these individual bondholders whose money together, the total value is about 8 billion, you need them to do the debt exchange to be able to help the government get a deal with the IMF, is lying to you. It's not true. This is not at all.
The group believes there are several sources of funds, including diverting funds meant for road construction and the contingency fund, for which government can depend on to settle them.
ESLA, energy sector levies, right? ESLA bonds is one of the eligible bonds. Now, the ESLA bonds, what happens is that we issue those bonds so that against a certain constant stream of income, every liter of petrol you buy, the fuels, there's an ESLA levy in it. So it's a constant stream of income that's coming in. So ask government, how can you say you don't have money? So then go to Dachin, that's get fund. 2.5 get fund, that would be adding to VAT. The get fund, like 2.5. It's also a constant stream of income. We spend about 143 billion. Out of that, we've earmarked about 27 for capital expenditure, the things that you are saying. And a lot of them have to do with roads that we want to build. We've been building roads for all these years. So if in 2023 we have to step down the building of roads and pay back individuals who are owed money, so be it. A lot of them are roads. And I appreciate good roads. Yes, Okay, but we're saying that right now people are owed about 8 billion. Don't take their money away so that you go and continue your roads. No, there's money. Pay them first. Don't rob Peter to pay Paul. And that's how come some of the people are even saying it's like government is running a Ponzi scheme.
Lawyer for the bondholders, Martin Pibu, has urged other individual bondholders not to extend any sympathies towards the government.
We are not asking government for a favor. It's people's hard-earned currency. So just give their money to them. That's it. And then next year comes, we raise, and it's not even all. So what belongs to government should use that to develop this year. And then next year, they will continue. Let's not have too much sympathy for government, because remember, before government got into this trouble, people had made noise and noise and noise, wondered that, hey, you're overborrowing. They said, no, that be that. No, we are not overborrowing. Oforiatta was warned. The president was warned. Check the tape. You see people there, your opposition. That's why you are saying all this. People were warned. Then number 2, after COVID, the World Bank, having seen that, hey, there is danger ahead, came out with a program that come so that you get debt relief, etc. But the president and his brother, Oforiatta, they said no, they don't want it.
It appears government still has a lot of engagement to do as far as the debt exchange program is concerned. We are waiting to see what will happen with respect to this opposition coming in from these individual bond holders. Reporting for City News, Hansen Ajeman. The announcement of the inclusion of the individual bondholders to the debt exchange program followed the decision by government.
Means you want to go on a tangent. No, discipline yourself.
So just let the person do their 5 minutes and then do your 5 minutes. And how do you reconcile the two?
Well, I mean, you can, depending on how much time you have, etc., you can sort out. This thing that you said, I don't agree. But at least it allows those 2 minutes, those 5 minutes for people to express themselves. That's the 5-5. Most of us, we don't even have vocabulary for emotions. And so we start with these 4 basic ones. I'll ask you, how are you feeling? Mm-hmm. And then you answer, I'm feeling glad, or sad, or mad, or bad.
Okay.
Just those 4. So you pick one.
Glad, sad, mad, or bad.
Yes.
Only one positive.
Right. So when you answer, you say, oh, I'm feeling glad. Then all I say is, tell me more.
Okay. Then you elaborate.
So the person goes on. And the person may stop. Then you all say, repeat, tell me more. Until the 2 minutes or the 5 minutes or the 10 minutes is up. You'll be amazed how many emotions come up and things that person...
Can I use it with my kids?
Oh, yes. Yes, we do it.
Are you feeling glad, sad, mad, or bad?
And you'll be amazed. Bernard, I say to, I'm a bit ashamed to say, but I learned these things as an adult. And my children are learning them.
They'll do better.
They will do better. Yeah. They should do better.
They have to.
So you just go and you don't say anything when somebody says something that makes you want to go on a tangent. No,
so
discipline yourself.
So just let the person do their 5 minutes and then do your 5 minutes. And how do you reconcile the two?
Well, I mean, you can, depending on how much time you have, etc., you can sort out. This thing that you said, I don't agree. But at least it allows those 2 minutes, those 5 minutes for people to express themselves. That's the 5-5. Most of us, we don't even have vocabulary for emotions. And so we start with these 4 basic ones. I'll ask you, how are you feeling? And then you answer, I'm feeling glad.
Sexual intimacy has a huge load of health and wellness, including psycho-emotional benefits. And which is why we need to address the pain and the cause of the pain, just so that we make the experience holistic, pleasurable, just so the individuals, particularly the women, can derive the benefit. For instance, good sexual experience, when you have good sex, that leads to orgasm. At least 2 of that a week has been found through scientific research to even limit the risk of some medical disorders.
Yes. But I think in the past few years, possibly because, I don't know whether it's social media or whether it's just because the economy has gotten to a certain stage or our democracy, there's so much. Now, let me give you an example. many years ago, when there's a tariff increment, it was a major story.
Yep.
So if we had an announcement of PRC increasing electricity charges by 30% and water by 8%, it would be a big story for like a week.
Yep.
I'm not even sure it's the biggest story today. Do you get me? So there's also the oil for the gold for oil happening at a time where the city has started deteriorating again. Right? It's a huge story. The Bank of Ghana yesterday, they had a representation at the Public Accounts Committee on a different issue, but it came up. The governor is admitting that the currency is depreciating again. Inflation is 55%. It's not even the biggest issue. Okay. Then there's a whole conversation about the National Cathedral, which has become emblematic of the government's what's the word to use?
It's actually the icing on the cake.
Yeah, if you can use the cake for that. So basically, it's become emblematic of wrong economic priorities.
Yeah.
And as if that were not enough,
scandals upon scandals.
It's becoming scandalous. So just building a cathedral within this economic period itself is a challenge on its own. And now to read all the things that the MP for South Tongue is saying, he's going to share revelations about a company, a pastor. I mean, how do you even start? Okay, then again, when I was in the university, when the schools reopen, school fees issues, you have like accommodation. At the time, AFUF, RFUF, it was a major story because university students had a voice and media houses were very interested in those issues. Yes, on CNR, we focused a bit on that, but it's not really a big story. So Sabah Hall, Commonwealth Hall are fighting. They want to make all of them freshers, the rest to go to other halls. There are photos and videos of people sleeping outside. It's still not made the biggest headline yet. So I don't even know, and as Vodafone has been sold, all right?
Majority shares, approval granted.
Telcel? Debt exchange is failing or has failed. Right. The bankers have come together to say to their members, don't sign up without talking to us. So they are coming together, desensitized to the seriousness of scandal. Because if you give them a scandal a day, they are like, oh, say yatiabre. So it loses its real value. Again, in the 90s, those days when you tune to the radio at the time, Komladumo on Joy FM, when there's a scandal, Charlie is big. Then he has the filler, he's reading it. These days, it's already on social media.
Yep.
So the person has already read the statement, he's seen a Blackwest thing. So I'm really wondering how to add value to people's lives in a time like this. And one of the things I struggle with is, what is the main thing every day? Okay, so if you ask me, so let me give you a quick background. If you ask me 25 years ago, we had Joy FM had started. So the media's main focus was, there was a dictatorship, right? So to take on Rawlings, to make sure people hear from their politicians, to interview MPs. So it was a big thing. The 96 Parliament, to hear them it was big. But it's no longer big to hear an MP. Okay. And getting political freedoms was a major issue in the early 90s. It's no longer the big issue today.
Yep.
I think that the biggest challenge today is development. How to get people to have a better life, because we've experimented with the Fourth Republic and it has gone well, at least to original intents and purposes. All right, we are able to vote, we are able to change government and all of that. But I feel that one of the things we are missing in the media is placing our finger on the main issue. And I argue that the main issue is development.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, how to translate that into what to focus on, into how to angle your news, into who to give voice to, into whose story deserves first placement on the front page, is a big challenge for me, because there's politicization. So it's a lot of you and I know the way we work with parliamentarians and MPs, a lot of the things they say don't even mean. So you're not even sure whether the scandal and all the opposition is because they just want to get an advantage or they actually mean well for the citizens. You look at debt exchange. If you look at the fact that a lot of people are going to have their incomes wiped out, you wonder whether even the way it's being discussed. I mean, yesterday I took on the majority leader and he sort of pushed back. But I was like, How come it is only when the individual bondholders came to you that you felt you wanted to speak about this? How come you didn't think that the people who were on the lower level, they needed a hearing? Then it says, well, these guys came to me, so we had to respond. And I find that I don't think as a country we realize where we are in terms of what our real need is. Because today we're reading a newspaper story about cocoa, and you were pointing out that Western media will do a lot to demonize your cocoa because it doesn't serve the economic interest. Now, there should be a national understanding of the importance of cocoa to us, even if not as our major export earner, the value chain and the strategy to say we will not just export raw cocoa beans, and that what we are doing with Cote d'Ivoire is important, adding value, exporting cocoa paste, cocoa cake, creating chocolate, spread. If your kids are eating bread in the morning, why should they eat bread with chocolate spread made in Switzerland? Why can't they eat it with bread made in Ghana? So that you can employ 5,000 people in a factory in Tema to produce that. I think that's our challenge. Or the fact that we are in an era of high prices and you are still not food sufficient and you are importing a lot of the food you eat. I thought these things would be self-evident. But I don't think when you look at the news cycle or you listen to our politicians or even our media, I don't think because for me, I've not lived in China, but when I listen to Chinese people, it's very clear what they want to do. They want to create livelihoods for their over a billion people. They want to become they have become the world's manufacturing center. They will do it better and faster and cheaper than anybody else. And they will do it and make it better than the Americans do it. And they are fighting for their place in the world. They are fighting for their place in the world. So now their foreign minister is in 5 African countries to promote the China agenda. They've woken up. They realize where they are in history and they don't want to lie down. I think we are sleeping. And a lot of the things, and I'm not saying we shouldn't discuss debt exchange or we shouldn't discuss National Cathedral, but I'm saying that do we have an anchor for those discussions? Is the anchor based on what we want to achieve as a nation? Or some of it is political expediency. Some people want to come to power, some people want to hold on to power. Somebody wants to please his paymaster. Do you get me? I feel there is a missing anchor for the national discourse. And it troubles me because, as we speak, global leaders are meeting in Davos. These are people who have made money off the rest of us. Business and political leaders. And they're going to chill in Switzerland to discuss the next 30 years. And I'm not even sure we are conscious, even as a middle class or as an elite, what our real challenge is as a people. Where we stand, what are we supposed to do? What is the task? How are we going to play? What are we going to do to secure the future for our children? What is going to be our place in the world? I'm not sure we even think about those things. And when you see, the reason you need an anchor is that you need to keep that in focus for everything you do. So that even if I said, okay, Sky, give me a breakdown of the National Cathedral issues, which I will do, you are doing it on the basis that there are certain things that we have agreed to as a country that we will not allow. And that this is not part of the national priority that we've all agreed. And that you are going to go into it, not because you dislike somebody, but because when you look at the total picture, this and that should not be happening. And I feel we don't do that enough. And I hope we are able to use all these discussions to steer people back to the main thing. Because the main thing is that economic survival is war. And so long as we are hewers of wood and drawers of water, we are everybody's darling. When we want to assert ourselves as Japan, as Korea, as China, as Malaysia, as Indonesia, immediately you want to wake up. You make enemies for yourself. And if you can't talk to people of life, if you can't do the Cote d'Ivoire thing, if Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire cannot persist in even controlling the cocoa market, then we have failed. And I think every morning we should remind our leaders that those are the priorities. Those are the priorities. And sometimes I think our leaders get too. I want sort of they lose focus and start thinking about my legacy, my party, my government. That's not the main thing. The main thing is your country. Because if your legacy is good and your country collapses, you haven't done anything. Okay, so I think sometimes the political leaders who are the most visible of all our leaders ought to take a cue from the long term. And the long term is that where will Ghana be in 100 years? And what can I do now to secure that or to make that better? But it seems as if everything's about 2024. All right? So MPP says, oh, I'll make sure I'm the first MPP government that will succeed itself. NDC says you will not break the 8th. So, and watch it, from 2023, June, IPAC, EC, voter ID, and no echo. We leave the developmental issues. Then whoever wins in January will spend like 3 months to choose a government up and down. Then like October 2024, then we come back and say, oh, okay, what should we do? Let's go and meet at some place. Let's discuss. By that time, a lot of people have gone ahead of us. So I just want to appeal to Ghanaians that discuss everything you want to discuss. Get into all the scandals you want to get into. But please don't lose focus.
Yep.
The focus should be development. Development, total development, not just economic development, human development. People must be well educated. People must be healthy. The citizen must be at the center of economic policy, not at the periphery, at the center. So everything you decide, whether it's PURC increasing tariffs, whether it's a cathedral you are building, whatever you want to do, where does that leave the citizen? And I want to just appeal to our parliamentarians to place citizens ahead of themselves, because I think their entry into the debt exchange has been very self-serving. Those who have invested money in these bonds are the ones who are now rising to say we don't want it. But people have lost incomes under the previous banking crisis. We haven't had MPs come out that loudly. So I want to beg them, please place the citizen at the center of your policies and let the nation be the object of your national struggle. Having said that, I'm going to now yield.
Yeah, I just want to make a quick footnote to what you have said, especially the one dealing with members of parliament. You see, that is where I almost always get disappointed, how our legislators get so removed from what exactly their responsibility should be on very serious matters like this. So this whole matter of the debt exchange program has been going on for some time now. And it started with the NDC's program at the APSA, which was followed by denials from the government and and eventually the government said, yes, we are going to the IMF, and then we were told later that we'll do debt exchange. Name for me one member of parliament who in his constituency decided to call a town hall meeting of some kind to meet with bondholders, to meet with pensioners, to meet with bankers, to meet with banking staff, insurers, to try and even understand what exactly their concerns are within his own constituency. Or constituents who may or may not have something to do with this whole matter, as to invite their input to form his position or inform his position when Parliament reconvenes. None. Or if they have done it, I have not heard it. And you see, in other jurisdictions, that is how you make democracy work. Because, yes, you are representing people. All of us cannot be in Accra to make and take decisions on our own behalf. Do you understand? We have to give that responsibility to an elected official who goes to represent us. So that if there is a major national issue of this kind, why is it that upon everything we hear members of parliament say, none of them thought it prudent to call a number of people in his constituency who are directly affected to engage them, hear their views, so that when you come to the floor of parliament and you are talking,
the strength of what you are saying is based on what your constituents are.
It represents the views of the good people of this constituency. That constituency, this is the position they have taken. Because by the end of that discussion, your PAs or the people who are around you would have put together a 3-page document or a 2-page document as to what exactly the views of your constituents are. But
so if I get you, you're saying, apart from what I've said about the media the MPs also have a role to play where even in positions they take, they must put their constituents at the center, not necessarily their political parties. So I think that's well good. I needed to make this caveat before we get into the issues because so let's just to clarify, the citizen must be at the center, the nation must be in front. So in terms of direction, Ghana first, our future first, not our stomach first, not eating now first, future first. So next generation, not next election. Then citizen, not maybe as against like the executive or against like big business. Do you get me? So whatever you're doing, think about how it will affect your citizen. All right. Now, there are lots of stories, but I noticed that the two of you in the review sort of emphasized two stories. One of you emphasized gold and for oil. One of you emphasized National Cathedral. So let me start with the easier National Cathedral. Why is
that's the easier one?
Because it's been running for longer. So the background is much more. Why is National Cathedral still in the news? Forgive me if I've not been in the news for that long. Because I thought we have already clarified. Okay, not clarified. At least most people have said that this thing, there's no money. What we were told was not adhered to. They said they were not going to use state funds. They've gone back on that. And I think a lot of well-meaning people have said, if they're going to be a cathedral, let the churches come together and build it. Leave the state out. Or even if you use the state, don't use state money. And then the last thing I saw was a big Bloomberg article that took an aerial shot of the big hole that had been dug. And then used that to represent what you call misplaced policy. And it's like an analogy for the big hole in Ghana's economy. That's where we are. Why is it back in the news? Godfred, why is it back in the news this morning?
Well, it's back in the news because the criticism continues unabated. It's never really left the news. I think that it's been...
Goes and comes.
No, it's been there. It doesn't even go and
it's always there.
Because almost every week or another week, there is something. If you look at November, December last year, we had a full parliamentary sitting on this to try and figure out how much state money, which is what brought the finance minister to parliament, if you recall, to answer questions on how much state money had gone into that report. We still are not yet aware of, its final, well, we are aware of some of the things that were said in there, let me put it that way. And I left that hearing quite dissatisfied, and I'm sure a lot of people who followed it left dissatisfied with some of the responses that came with regards to how a project that started as a personal pledge had metamorphosed into perhaps the biggest
national headache,
the biggest single infrastructure
from personal
that this government will put up.
From personal pledge to national hole.
And every day new controversy because one, there have been issues around the funding, and that is where everything comes from. Because it is quite obvious that the government has struggled to convince the Christian community in this country that this is important enough for us to raise this kind of money for. The attendant issues of supervision, conflict of interest, transparency, accountability. All those are issues that have weighed heavily on the minds of citizens, both Christian and of other religious denominations, but albeit citizens.
But what is the status of the cathedral as far as the government is concerned? Are they saying they are going to do it?
Well, yes. The president spent the first week and a half of the year meeting several religious leaders, and he put it out that we are going to do this in December.
In the same way that we started it, as in, at the same cost.
Yes.
With the same place, the same size, everything.
He said it will get done. Last week or so, we had the very controversial statement from the Metropolitan Archbishop of the Anglican Diocese, Reverend Smith, I think.
When he did the service at the Jubilee House.
And said critics are naysayers.
Oh, seriously?
Yes, and that it will get done either way.
Wow.
And then we've had now Okudjota Blakwa's questions. Southton, who raised questions about some of the funding that had come up.
He originally raised some issues. He even said on air some time ago that there was a lawsuit against us. He said that there were. In fact, he revealed initially in an interview that, contrary to assurances that state money will not be spent, the finance minister had made certain payments. You remember that?
Yes.
This was around, I don't know, June,
Yes.
July. Yep. To the National Cathedral, for which then they had to come and then explain why. And then there was this sort of change of mouth that, we didn't say we would not fund it. But it was very clear. I said we won't fund it with state money.
Yeah.
So that's what Ablakwa brought us to. What has he brought now again?
Yeah.
What has Okujeto Ablakwa brought again?
Well, he raised questions about an entity that was paid money from the coffers of the National Cathedral, this JNS entity. He went for further and better particulars on the matter, their certificate of incorporation and whatnot, and raised questions as to how come they were paid that money, for what job. Did you pay a skills development center 2.6 million Ghana cedis on a project like the National Cathedral? Where did they fit in all of this?
So he then raised those questions.
Yeah, he raised those questions. He also raised questions about Reverend Victor Kusi Boateng. He's the founder of the Power Chapel Worldwide. He's he's listed as a member secretary of the National Cathedral Trustees.
Board of
Trustees, and also questions about a second identity that seemed connected. And he put out photos. He put out passport
IDs. Put out photos.
He put out tin numbers.
To show that this pastor
has two
is the
identities.
same person who owns this company. That was given the money.
Yes. So yesterday, the trustees responded. The National Cathedral responded through its secretariat, Dr. Polopoku Mensah, who's the executive director of the secretariat, and sought to explain how this came about. The payment was made about because they needed money to pay the contractors, and the money had delayed. So JNS lent them the money on the 27th of August, I think, and then the JNS were paid back. That money was an interest-free loan, according to the statement from Dr. Polopoku.
So the National Cathedral project needed money.
Yes.
And the company owned by one of the trustees.
Yes.
Loaned the National Cathedral money.
2.6 million Ghana cedis.
And what kind of company is this?
According to the reports out there, this is listed as a skills and development center.
Oh, which is why when you came on the newspaper, you were shouting that the GRA, their company has a lot of money.
They have a lot of money, so I hope they've been paying taxes.
I'm now getting you. I didn't know where you were coming from when you were making that noise.
So I hope they've been paying tax, because if you can loan a whole entity like the National Cathedral 2.6 million as a skills and development center.
But let's hold on. Is the National Cathedral a private entity or a state-owned entity?
It's a state-owned entity.
No, there are complexities around that. It
is a state-owned entity by reason of its registration and where it is ceded to. So there's no doubt about it that it's a state-owned.
It's a state-owned. Yeah. I use that to ask you, if a state-owned entity wants to take a loan, is there a certain procedure they have to follow, or it really depends? So, for example, can Bust go and take a loan
from Avle Incorporated?
Yes. Or is there some arrangement?
Well, there are procedures that you have to follow. Of course, I mean, you have to refer the matter to the board. The board would have to take a decision, approve the same. Because ultimately, if people are taking loans left, right, and center without the input of the board, then it creates problems. So those procedures must necessarily be followed. They must sanction it, authorize, they must understand the purpose of the loan.
I'm asking this on the basis of treating state agencies and their debts as national debt, where finance ministers have tried to disengage from that. So if GNPC owes Talo, it may not necessarily be part of the national debt stock. So, and if they want to borrow some money, they don't have to necessarily come to Parliament. I'm just using that whole arrangement to come. So if a National Cathedral wants to take a loan, do we know whether they have to go through any procedure? That's number one. Number two, can they take a loan from a board member, quote unquote, because now you're saying he's a member of the board of trustees. So if a government, I don't want to call it a government agency because that's a technical term. If an entity with state interest wants to take a loan, what procedure must they go through, and can they take a loan legitimately from a member of their board? And if they can, what conditions must be satisfied for that loan to be validly taken and paid back? Right. I don't know if there's any law, or you've gone to law school now to help me to appreciate all those things.
So you're bordering seriously on matters having to do with conflict of interest. The general position of the law is that
corporate governance.
Yeah, a person should not, in Ghana, put himself in a situation that puts himself at conflict with his interest on a matter.
Okay.
Do you understand? In other words, you should not put yourself in a conflict of interest situation so that you are taking a decision.
Your interest must align.
Yeah, that's
They
right.
must not be conflicted.
Exactly. In this particular case, we are told that the gentleman, is supposed to be a member of the board. Now, how the law absolves you of responsibility or blame is where you declare the interest.
Oh, ahead of time.
Yeah, that's right. To say the
I'm a member
parties
of the, so like I said, I'm a member of the board of Bank of Ghana, but I have a savings and loan company.
Exactly.
So they know that this savings and loan company is there.
Exactly.
If you put me on the board, I've declared it. So my decision to agree to MPC is not because I'm thinking about my savings and loan company.
So on this particular matter, when the matter came up as to a loan to be given, the question is whether at that meeting, if there was one, he declared that, okay, this company is mine or I have an interest in it, and whether it was the board thought that it was okay that I should still proceed to deal with it matter. Sometimes what the law will require you to do is to recuse yourself from the particular decision that affects your interest or which puts your interest at odds with the decision being taken.
So the MP's decision to go to Shraj is on the basis of a conflict of interest that he supposes occurs.
Exactly.
I'll come back to that. It's 8 o'clock. Let me bring you into what is trending. That's a long.
This is trending number one.
Long-winded way of getting back to where we're supposed to go to. But the Vodafone One Ghana promo is here. With just 1 Ghana cedi, you can have 20 minutes talk time to all other networks and 1 gig of data every day between 5 a.m. and 11:59 a.m. Simply dial *530# subscribe and enjoy longer conversations and browsing. Now, this Vodafone One Ghana promo is the best value offer in town. Easy on your pocket. Save big when subscribing to the One Ghana promo daily. Vodafone, further together. And it's the season to stay connected. Reactivate your Car Bank account this holiday season and get more value. Get free access to our short code service *771# CarNet and Car Bank app when you reactivate your Car Bank account between now and January. I believe we are still in January. On top of your account. Visit any car branch to get free access to any of our digital solutions, or call us toll free 0800 500 500, or contact us via email at customercare@carbank.net. Carbank, forward together. All right, so Daniel Cranting is here to tell us what else is trending. So apparently Godfred knows what's trending already.
Yeah, it's true. Godfred is right. Kwabna Edu Jimfi. It's trending alongside Kusi Boateng. Trending alongside.
So the Kwabna Edu Jimfi is the second name of the Kusi Boateng?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Or the other name?
Or the other name. AKA. So, yeah. When I go, Sky will finish up. Vodafone Ghana is also trending. Yesterday, news emerged that the NC has reached an agreement to transfer 70% majority shares to Telecel Group. So it looks like Vodafone is going to be sold.
Yeah. We'll tell you more about Telecel later. People are asking. We'll spend some time discussing the telecom sector. Not today, but definitely in the coming days.
Yeah, so Citi CBS has got you covered. Kotoko is also trending. Yesterday they played the Ghana Premier League game against BBN Gold Stars. And there was a penalty awarded against Kotoko. A very funny penalty that was awarded.
Oh, God.
Yeah, the ball hit the hand of the BBN Gold Stars attacker. And the ref pointed to the spot. So it looks like now when you touch the ball in the box, it's an advantage to you.
You are going to score, you touch the ball, they give you a penalty.
Then BBN equalized. And that was it. So the game ended 1-1. Kotoko fans are not too happy about the incident. Sheldon is also in the trends. Kudru Sheldon is in the trends.
What are you talking about Sheldon Cooper? Big Bang Theory.
Sheldon is trending because he and Shatta are going at it. He and Shattawali. Shattawali released a diss song. That will not be
okay.
I'm tapping into the blessing. When I can't tell you that Elon Musk has bought Twitter, I'm tapping into that blessing.
Okay, me too. I tap. If tapping was what to let to prosperity anchor, my one tap is to be rich. Yeah, man. I tap into the anointing.
Babe, so what are
we doing tomorrow?
Oh, I have to go to the bank and go and pay for the stuff for my place. Then maybe back to the bank to transfer what's left to my brother. So
Are you serious? You're going to the bank twice in one day? Who is she? Eh? Which bank? Which branch?
Oh, babe, but...
Oh, don't babe me. What the...
as much as you can, try to know yourself.
Okay.
And I want to entreat for those of you out there who want to know yourself. Mm-hmm. We have the ability, we have the technology, we have the lab analysis that will help you to know yourself. So you will not be just placing yourself in assumption and interpretation of other people. So when they ask you who you are, you'll be able to tell who exactly you are, because that influences your decision, your choices, and even help you to manage your life. You don't want to leave this world without really coming to know who you are. So you're just trying to be like other people till you die without really coming to know yourself. So when you get in touch, we can give you what you have to do in order to get your lab analysis so that you can be so proud of yourself and even your children. So you don't struggle to know what your children will do in the future and all that. That is just a plus that you can give to yourself as your New Year package. And then you need to actually question your opinions of life. Know yourself.
Serious? Yes. Sexual intimacy has a huge load of health and wellness, including psycho-emotional benefits. You know, and which is why we need to address the pain and the cause of the pain, just so that we make the experience holistic, pleasurable, just so the individuals, particularly the women, can derive the benefit. For instance, good sexual experience, when you have good sex, that leads to orgasm, at least 2 of that a week, has been found through scientific research to even limit.
For the show, it's at 9 o'clock. Now imagine the things you can do with an extra 50 cedis. You can now chop at your favorite restaurant on us. Zippay is giving you a 50 cedi cash bonus to all first-time MoneyGram to wallet receivers. Ask any of the more than 4,000 agents nationwide. Dial star 270 hash to register now. Chop, make a chop is the whole story. So I like the Zippay, you know. Chop make a chop. Now this year's enterprise motor insurance promo dear. Different. It's different. Simply buy or renew motor insurance with Enterprise and win instant gifts such as fuel coupons, branded gift items, and qualify for the monthly raffle draws with amazing rewards. What's more, when you buy your motor insurance from Enterprise, you stand a chance of winning an iPhone 14, washing machine, high pressure car washer, vacuum cleaner, auto tire inflator, and in the final month, a premium crotch rocket motorbike. Wait no more. Call your insurance broker, agent, or visit any Enterprise branch for your motor insurance. Get free fuel coupons and be the possible winner of these amazing rewards in our monthly raffles between January to June. This promo is regulated by the National Lottery Authority on the Caritas Lottery platform. Enterprise, your advantage. And in this day and age where rent charges are astronomical, cost of living, land for buildings are skyrocketing, landlords are giving tenants a hard time. Ugo Flip is here to make the home ownership journey realistic, fun, and more affordable than you imagine. We are a real estate gaming company that rewards houses as prices in 3 easy steps. Log on to the platform ugoflip.com, register with your phone number or email address, buy as many tickets as possible. What makes Ugo Flip's win big game unique is that even if you don't win the ultimate prize, which is always a house, Ugo Flip will reward you with loyalty points equivalent to $3 per ticket. All right, so let's come back to the National Cathedral. You were explaining the sort of the sequence of events, and then Sky was giving the event. So the latest is that a board member or a trustee member gave a loan. Mm-hmm. Okay, actually, Mr. Blackwell discovered that an amount had been paid to the person's entity. Yes. And then the secretary comes and says, no, it was a repayment for a loan he had given, an interest-free loan. Now, Sky is saying to us that because it's a public or state entity, you must follow certain rules. So, for example, the Public Financial Management Law is called PFM? Mm-hmm. PFM 2019. So you can go in there to say, how do you manage the finances of an entity like that? Although you are saying that there's still some lack of clarity about the status of the National Cathedral. Yes. You are not very sure. Is it quasi-state or state?
I think there was an advice from the Attorney General some time back on dealing with this matter, and so it was somehow registered under the National Monuments and Museums Board, which is why when they went to Parliament, the money for it was going through the Ministry of Tourism, if you recall recently. The money that was held up.
But that doesn't vitiate Sky's point that it's still state.
Yeah, it is. It is. But then I was saying the second part of it was that initially it had also been registered as a private organization.
Oh, yes.
If you recall.
In the initial discussion.
Yes, in the initial discussion, had also been registered as a private organization. So.
And then that was when they came up and said, how are you using state funds to support
this?
I don't know whether that's been resolved.
I think the clarification is that it was registered as a company limited by guarantee. Do you understand? So basically, I mean, it is not a company strictly speaking in the sense of some private company where somebody is, the shareholder and owns all these shares, or there are a number of subscribers to the company, and therefore the shares are distributed amongst them. You understand? So
limited by guarantee as against limited by shares.
Exactly. Do you understand? So it is. We should look at it in that in that light.
But to make that point, let me just read the response of the National Cathedral. So yesterday, January 16, they issued a statement following the National Cathedral and payment to JNS, which is where all this has come from. And then I'm going to make my larger point about why, on a personal level, I am not a fan of what is happening and what has been said about this. Following the January 7 memo refutation of false claims made against the National Cathedral, the attention of the National Cathedral Secretariat has been drawn to yet another false accusation. This time, and using information from the same documentation submitted by the Secretariat to Parliament on December 15, 2022, the National Cathedral is said to have made illegal payments totaling 2.6 million Ghana cedis to a company called JNS. 2. As a normal verification expected of a member of Parliament would have revealed, this was not an illegal payment, but rather a refund of a short-term interest-free loan made by JNS to top up the payments to the contractors of the National Cathedral. The support was sought from a National Cathedral trustee member, Reverend Kusi Boateng, in a letter dated August 26, 2021, due to a delay in the receipt of funds to pay the contractors on time. 3. The 2.6 million Ghana cedis was paid from the JNS account to the National Custodial account on August 27, 2021, following a request from Reverend Kwesi Boateng to his bankers ADB. 4. The 2.6 million Ghana cedis was refunded to Reverend Kwesi Boateng and JNS by the National Custodial on September 8, 2021.
Go back 2 paragraphs. You were saying something about something that delayed. I just wanted to know.
Yes, says that's point 2. As a normal verification expected of a member of parliament would have revealed, this was not an illegal payment, but rather a refund of a short-term interest-free loan made by JNS to top up the payments to the contractors of the National Cathedral. This support,
top up?
Yes, to top up.
The payments made to contractors.
This is in 2021. This support was sought from a National Cathedral trustee member, Reverend Kwesi Boateng, in a letter dated August 26, 2021, due to a delay in the receipt of funds to pay the contractors on time.
This support, so the Cathedral Secretariat sought support from a member of their board to advance money to be paid to contractors as a top-up. And it was interest-free.
Yes.
So that when the money comes in from the state, to be used to refund him.
And they did that, according to the response on September 8, 2021.
So what the MP saw was the payment back.
Yes. So on point 5 says, this is not an illegal payment. 6, as we have stressed consistently, a project of this nature that significantly raises the issues of faith and national development will always have its discontents, malcontents, as well as those who would use lies and reckless populist statements to give the impression of wanting accountability. In our vibrant democracy, this is to be expected. However, we do expect that the basic values of verification, particularly by members of parliament, will be allowed. The board and management of the National Cathedral remains focused and committed to the completion of the National Cathedral and will continue to do so with diligence, integrity, excellence, and accountability. Signed by Executive Director, National Cathedral of Ghana, Dr. Paul Opoku.
All right, let's speak to lawyer for the MP who has gone to the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, SHRAJ, with, I believe, a petition of some kind. Godwin Edwitamaklo is on the line. Good morning, sir. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
So, what has your client advised you to lead him to do at SHRAJ?
Okay, so thank you. 2 things. 1, to invoke the jurisdiction of SHRAJ to investigate the allegation of conflict of interest against a secretary of the Board of Trustees in the person of Reverend Victor Kusi, also known as Kwabna Edu Jemfi. And the basis of this complaint is that if you look at the National Cathedral Document of Incorporation, Victor Kusi, Reverend, is named as the Secretary of the Board of Trustees. And that puts him in a position that you call like in a fiduciary position. Now, it has also turned out a document submitted to Parliament by the Cathedral Secretariat under the heading Mobilization for Contractors, an amount of 2.6 million Ghana cedis. You will see the narration paid to a company by name GNS Company Limited. Now, further checks at the Registrar of Companies reveal that there are 3 directors of this company. The other director is named on the documents Kwabna Edu Jemfi. Now, if you pick the Kwabna Edu Jemfi on the face of it, you don't see any other thing. However, if you probe further and you begin to go for the identity documents used for that incorporation, you will notice that the picture on the document bearing the name Kwabna Edu Jemfi is the same person as Reverend Victor Kusi. And so quite clearly, you have a situation where the secretary to a board happens to be the director of another company And there's a certain self-dealing between this company and the said secretary to the board of trustees. Now, what is even more curious is that bank statements of this company called GNS reveal something interesting. An amount of 3.5 million was paid to this GNS company by the Controller and Accountant General. We do know that the Controller and Accountant General disburses public funds without more. Question: what work did this GNS company do to the Republic of Ghana to merit the payment of 3.5 million? And if you look at the bank statement and narration, you will notice, curiously, that it was basically no payment, almost zero balance for GNS, until they received that 3.5 million, and then they wired 2.6 out of that amount of money to the National Cathedral, and then a subsequent payment back to them. It is this that my client, the Honorable Samuel Okudeto Ablakwa, is saying that consistent with Article 40 of the 1992 Constitution and Article 218 of the Constitution, 40 requires that all Ghanaian citizens prevent the misuse of public funds. 218 requires STRAT to investigate. Now, the point is that the investigative powers of STRAT allows it to go beyond. It's more inquisitorial. So they are able to do proper investigation by going beyond what ordinarily you will see. And that is what has informed the petition to STRAT.
Okay, let's just get this clear. You're saying that a payment of 3.5 was made to JNS account from controller before JNS then transferred 2.6 to National Cathedral.
Fantastic.
So in your sequence, a payment was made from the state to the private company before the private company paid back. That's what your sequence is saying.
That is so.
Because I have in front of me a press release from the Cathedral Secretariat dated January 16.
In fact, that press release even further.
No. Let me ask the question. Just relax. Now, paragraph 3 of that press release. Okay, let me start from paragraph 2. Just give me 2 seconds. As a normal verification expected of a member of parliament would have revealed, this was not an illegal payment, but rather a refund of a short-term interest-free loan made by JNS to top up the payment to the contractors of the National Cathedral. This support was sought from a National Cathedral trustee member, Reverend Kusi Boateng, in a letter dated August 26, 2021, due to a delay in the receipt of funds to pay the contractors on time. Then they attach something below. Paragraph 3, the 2.6 million was paid from the GNS account to the National Cathedral account on August 27, 2021, following a request from Reverend Kusi Boateng to his bankers ADB. Then it says in paragraph 4, the 2.6 was refunded to Reverend Kusi Boateng and JNS by the National Cathedral on September 8, 2021. So we have 3 dates, August 26, August 27, and then we have September 8. Now let me go back to what you said, and if you can clarify, how do these sit with what your client is asking you to present to Shraj?
Okay, so you notice that the 3.5 million payment to JNS preceded all this. Bernard. Hello, Bernard.
I'm listening now.
Aha. Okay, so this is the sequence. So controller had paid DNS 3.5 million, right? Earlier, before the 26th, 27th so-called transaction, so-called loan transaction, interest-free loan transaction between GNS and the National Cathedral Secretariat. In fact, I'm trying to pull the bank statement of the GNS to give you more specific.
Yeah, that will help us to ascertain the timelines, because I think that's a very key part of the
The timeline is key. I'm just trying to pull it out.
Yeah.
Just a minute.
Good. So we have 26th as the letter for the request. We have 27th as the payment from JNS to National Cathedral, and then we have September 8th as the day it was refunded.
Bernard. So on 23rd August, GNS had a credit amount of 3.5 million paid into the account. When did they do the transfer to National Cathedral Secretariat?
We are told that this was done 27th August.
So you see the timeline. So the payment from controller to JNS preceded all these transactions.
So, but do we know if any other work had been done earlier? Of course, from the press statement that was sent out.
If you look, the balance of GNS. Hello?
Your Honor, I'm listening.
Yes, the balance of GNS as at 26 February 2021 was 0.
Yeah.
Then suddenly on 23rd August 2021, an amount
3.5, yes.
3.5 was paid into the account. Then on 26, because I have the bank statement here.
Yeah.
Then on 27, they did the transfer of 2.6 million to the National Cathedral Secretariat. I mean, look at the timeline.
So your client is trying to find out how come the 3.5 was paid.
And you see, Bernard, again, if you read the narrative, it says transfer of an order with a code name COD, and then it proceeds. And everybody knows that's the controller narrative.
Yes. So your client is trying to find out why 3.5 million was paid into this account.
Exactly.
And then the 2.6 paid back was after the 3.5 was paid.
From the state, the one that disburses public funds, controller, key. So first of all, that 3.5 million is traceable to public funds.
So so it means you are looking for a number of things. You want first to establish a conflict of interest or not in the respect of the fact that a board of trustees member of the National Cathedral is also director of a company that had a financial transaction with it. Now, are you also roping in controller to explain why they made a 3.5 payment, or have you found any reason why the payment was made?
So on the petition, you notice that controller appears as the fourth respondent. As the fourth respondent. They should come and explain the basis on which 3.5 million of public funds were transferred to GNS. We are keeping a lot of things to ourselves.
So those are the two. So those are the two things you are asking for: the conflict of interest and then the circumstances for the payment. Is that all, or are you making other reliefs?
No, there are other reliefs that we are seeking more specifically for further investigation into payments that have been made for the documents available to my clients, among other things. But the key one relates to the 2.6 million payment from the company by name DNS to National Cathedral and further transfer to the same company.
Okay.
We want to know.
Yeah, you did say that there was a photo of a person on the registration for the JNS, which was the same photo of the Reverend. Are you also are you interested in some investigation into whether he actually is the same person?
So we have attached all those documents to the petition. We want to know, because some of them borders, quote unquote, on what you may say criminality. And Shraj may not have the jurisdiction to do that. Because this is a very technical petition, strict on what Shraj can do And if you look at the mandate of SRAJ, is to investigate allegations of conflict of interest, the allegations of abuse of office. We initially had a challenge that relative to the fact that the National Cathedral project is not one of the things that you can call public officer, strictly speaking, because it's a company incorporated under the Companies Act. But what we found curious is that the Supreme Court had already decided that when it comes to SRAJ powers, it matters not whether you are public or private. In the matter of the Republic versus High Court ex parte SRAJ, where the Supreme Court made it clear that consistent with SRAJ powers to fight against corruption, abuse of office, conflict of interest, it is possible that a public officer can collude with a private individual. And so to limit the jurisdiction of SRAJ to only public officers would invariably undermine its investigative powers. So SRAJ ultimately has the power to extend its tentacles into even private dealing. And that is what is informing the engagement with Reverend Victor Kusi. So he comes across as the fit respondent. As far as
just finally, by way of but from the way SRAJ works, do they invite, is it like an adversarial legal process? How do they work? Do they invite?
It's principally inquisitorial. And that is why the preference for SRAJ investigative powers, because unlike the court system, which is principally adversarial, you must go and look for your evidence and come and present it before SRAJ. Okay? That is the case relative to the court system. But in the case of SRAJ, Bernard, you notice that because they have the power to investigate, they are put in the position of, say, a police officer who will not take just your word, but will go beyond, possibly the veil, to uncover the materials that requires to do a fair and